Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Full Exposure with me, your host, Brian Kelly. Well, my next guest is Bridget Clark Whitney. She is the founding CEO of one of the best organizations in the world. It's called Kids Food Basket, and you're going to learn a lot about it and what they do and why they do it. But on top of that, Bridget Clark Whitney is so much more than just the head of a multi-million-dollar nonprofit organization. She is, let me just describe what it feels like to sit down with Bridget Clark Whitney for an hour. It sort of feels like if you were meeting a friend for lunch or coffee, but your friend isn't really your friend. Your friend is, surprise, a TED Talk. You get to sit down with a real-life TED Talk. Pepper it with questions. You get all this inspiration, amazing ideas and insights just thrown back at you. It's like a rocket ship ride for your mind. And she's so inspiring that I can't wait for you to hear this podcast. It's also, I said things to her during this podcast that I didn't think I would say in a public forum, being this podcast. I was raw. I was more honest about a lot of different issues. And that's because she is so authentic that she's able to draw things out of me in a way that just feels natural. It feels safe. And she's doing that for the community in a roundabout, abstract way. And I don't want to beleaguer the point or just labor on about it. But this episode is very special. She addresses social justice issues around food and food equity for children. There are a lot of hungry kids in Michigan and around the country, and they are doing their best at Ground Zero to provide sack dinners for children all across 3 counties. They cover a large area. It takes an army of volunteers to do what they do. And Bridget, behind all this, has an amazing story. And one that you will find very inspiring. So the great thing about launching this podcast has been that how many questions I'm getting, how many comments are being sent my way via every single platform. Phone call, text, IM, DM, you name it. You guys are reaching out to me. You're following on iTunes. You're subscribing. Really seeing an amazing amount of growth. And we're just getting started. And so I'm overwhelmed with the response. One question that's been asked of me quite a bit, which is a fair question. They said, so how are you sponsoring this? How are you doing this podcast? You seem to be a busy person. You seem to have a career in photography and video production. So how's this happening? And really, I have to just put it as simply as I can. This podcast is purely powered by passion and an idea. It's really funded by my businesses. It's funded by Brian Kelly Photography and Film, and you can find out more about what I do there if you go visit briankellyphoto.net and another website that I have called briankellyproductions.com. And you'll see a little bit of a cross-section of my photography work, my video work. I'm very proud to work with many local companies, large and small, startups to Fortune 500 companies. So I really work with everybody and anybody I possibly can. So if you're interested in collaborating on a project, would you please reach out to me and start a dialogue, and we'll figure out if we can work on something together. So most of all, I just want to thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for giving this a shot. You know, I didn't know what I'm doing. We still don't know what I'm doing. I'm just trying to create some cool portraits and extend a conversation that I have with each guest out into the world. I'm fortunate to meet so many great people, so many interesting people, that I wanted to formalize the portrait structure and the conversations that always start during portrait sessions to be able to encapsulate those in some way and put them out into the world. So if you find it interesting, the best favor you can do for me is to just share it, talk about it, tell a friend about it, post it on Facebook. We're available on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, Google Play, and one other big one it's Stitcher. That's the other one, Stitcher. So we're trying to get on every platform where people prefer to listen to podcasts and subscribe. So if we're missing a platform that you use, please let me know. We'll make sure the podcast gets on it, and it's easier for you to find us and share. So without further ado, here is this invigorating conversation that I had with Bridget Clark Whitney. We're both vulnerable and raw, and I'll see you on the flip side. I love how you were stretching before the podcast.
I know. I had to get a good back stretch in there, you know what I mean? Really, I'm not just stretching out my body. I really felt like I was stretching out my spirit, my soul.
In your mind. You got to stretch out your mind.
That's right, you know?
We go hard on this podcast.
That's right, man. I got to be leveled up to you.
Yeah.
I got to be leveled up to you.
Yeah, Mr. Energy. I'm a big ball of energy. You know?
Let's go. Dive right in.
Yeah, I know. Level up. Let's get ready.
Word.
But I forget. See, I already forgot. I'm a shitty host.
It's because you're distracted because I was like, I'm hungry like the wolf.
I love Duran Duran, by the way.
Yeah, yes, good.
Come
yes.
on. Back in the day, all right, I'm an 80s kid.
Yeah, word.
It was Duran Duran. Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't like them at the time. I love them now.
Yes.
Nostalgia. What is this nostalgia thing? I don't get it.
No, but like that's cool because like it's like awakening those parts of your brain during like prime development, right? It's like it's bringing you back.
It's a cry for help to like go back to that time where your body is not just shutting down on you as a 50-year-old. That's what it is.
Yeah, but it was all those decisions we were making then. This is why our bodies are shutting down.
Yeah, you're right.
This is why I'm trying to reverse age. This is my whole goal.
Well, you are,
here.
by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's working. Let's hope that 10 years from now, I didn't try to reverse age too much.
I'm a crystal ball to your future. And you're like, oh my gosh. No. I thought it would be better than this.
Brian, for real though. For real. Like, seasons?
We're in a season.
I think that I'll likely, I'm sure.
Can I describe my season to you?
Please, take it away.
My season right now is, I'm in the winter sort of storing, I'm in the protection phase of my body. So what that means is that I don't mind expanding right now.
Yeah.
Because I could be on some type of ice cap.
Totally.
Anytime soon. We live near Lake Michigan.
Right.
You could find yourself slipping off a pier.
Right.
On a sightseeing walk. And the next thing you know, you're floating to Chicago and you need to survive. And I'm geared and I'm built for that. And I have the stamina to just lay on a piece of ice and let the blubber around me just protect me from the elements. And I think it's smart. A lot of we have mutual friends in the exercise biz.
Sure.
I have former friends. You have current friends.
And they would tell you that
I'm CrossFit. I'm CrossFit for weather right now.
Okay. All right. They would also tell you that you're in with them for life. So basically all you have to do is be
they
like,
don't
guys.
call or text me anymore.
They're sending you preliminary messages though.
I'm waiting for the intervention where someone will ask me and then it's going to be Christian and Craig and it'll be Chrissy and it'll be a bunch of people and my buddy Dave Dyer and a bunch of they'll just be in a room and they're like, it's time.
Oh, the intervention.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it'll
nice.
Be a fitness intervention.
Totally. I might, if you don't mind, do a little inception there and just plug it, right?
Oh, you're gonna be the catalyst for that?
Yeah, that'd be great. Because I want to be there because it's gonna be a great story to tell, Brian. Like at the end of the day,
for you or for me?
Us.
Because I don't think I'm gonna look at it too fondly.
Because
in every movie where they have a real intervention with some heroin addicted person, they're like, wait a minute. Yeah. I thought we were having breakfast at Grand Coney, and no. I thought I was picking you up to go to breakfast, and really all my entire family, my fitness family, is there to go, it's time, Brian.
It's time, but we'll probably have ice cream there, right?
Yeah.
Dairy-free, gluten-free.
As a carrot in front of the donkey to get him into rehab.
No, it would just be let's all gather the energy around Brian, listen, here's the thing. I am with you on this fallen ice cap thing. I think it's critical that we are prepared for this stuff. So an entire room of my basement would tell you the same story, which is when the grid goes out or whatever, you're going to want to be stuck on a desert island with me because I've got stuff that's going to last for months.
Yeah, you've got beach balls and scuba gear.
I was talking more
snorkel.
water filtration systems. I mean, a little bit of a prepper.
More into the world.
Yeah, but what you're describing too is the same thing. It's just preparation for any major disastrous shit hits the fan situation where you're going to be stored up, right?
I am stored up.
There you go.
I'm a warehouse right now. I am a 400,000 square foot warehouse.
It's just a season. It's your season.
Yeah. You're right.
You know what I mean?
Come June, I'll be lean,
Yeah, that's right. Do your thing.
shredded.
That's right.
I'll be back doing
Six-pack.
yeah,
No doubt. It's
six-pack
tough though
already.
to get from one place to the other, and I think it's adrenals, right? Like I think it's adrenals because just to even have that energy to like get into it or even put yourself in that mental space where it's like I'm gonna go work out. Like you really have to be like have like good solid adrenals to be able to take you there.
No, I'm with you, and
Yeah.
I went through a period, and you've gone through a journey, which I want
Yes.
to actually put this on you, not me just whining about things. But I didn't bring you here so I could just like dump my problems on you.
Dude, I'm bring it on. Let's talk. Let's wax poetic
No,
on
but
anything.
you've had an incredible transformation and fitness journey. But let me just tell you, back to the adrenal, something happened. But like I went so hard for 2 years,
Yeah.
did amazing, got
Yeah.
really shredded, lost like 80 pounds. And then something in me just said, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
I burned out somehow.
Yeah.
And then I was like, it's just a different type of, I don't know how I still am struggling with how did I pull the rug out from that? Because it wasn't from a lack of like wanting to do it. It's just I couldn't do it anymore. I don't know where that is.
No, that's a really good thing to think about though, right? Because like, what was the cause? Like, what was the impetus? Like, what was the burning platform? And like, if you can figure out the burning platform, you could probably like,
I'll be a
navigate
billionaire
through.
because like
Navigate through it.
let's find some product.
But it could have been your adrenals. I know when I started this whole fitness journey, I didn't start, not even fitness journey, health journey. That's what it is, health journey. Or, my reverse aging goal, right?
Yeah.
But like, I did not start with fitness at all. I only started with food and like self-care and like walking and not even walking. Just, it was the food piece for like a good 4 or 5 months. And then I started with the like actual, like hardcore, not even hardcore for me, maybe like 3 to 4 times a week max, working out.
I was going like 6 to 7 days a week.
Dang, bro.
Yeah.
That's the real deal. See, you could have gotten some adrenal fatigue on that.
Maybe.
I mean, worth looking it up.
It's a real thing.
Yeah, it's a real thing.
It is real to me now.
And actually, if you have adrenal fatigue, and this is now we're really podcasting, right?
All right.
If you have adrenal fatigue, what I've read is your adrenals can act in such a way that they're sending off so much, I think it's the cortisol, that your body actually does the reverse and gains weight if you have adrenal fatigue and you're working out really hard.
Why would my body do that to me?
Listen,
Why is it like, psych, can't do that anymore?
I don't got you there. I could probably make something up right now, but considering people are going to listen to this.
Passive aggressive against me is what it is.
Yeah.
It's like, it is another thing that I'm fighting outside of my brain, and it has its own thing. But enough about that. Bridget Clark Whitney, thank you for coming and doing this podcast.
Now, I'm very grateful to be here. You know that I dig the studio. I dig the energy that you guys bring in here. And I think your work is the best.
Stop.
It's amazing.
But we did just do a photo shoot.
Yeah.
Do you like being photographed?
It was
Do you
powerful.
like the process? Because you're photographed a lot in your role because you're a very public figure. What's your mindset around just photography?
Wow, thanks for asking that. Okay, so I really believe in like the relationships and the rapport and like the energy you have with people that are taking pictures. And
It's a real thing.
yeah, and I have like a deep appreciation and love for art. And so people who have this way that they can intersect art and relationships, I have like a deep respect for that, and it excites me.
Yeah.
And so anytime I'm with someone that can do that, I get really excited and really energized. Like I walked in this morning and I was like, I'm so effing excited to be here.
Yeah.
And it's true because I see that in you, Brian. Like you're able to take these amazing relationships and this rapport that you have with people all over the community and your relationship with community, right? You take that and then you infuse it into your art and you create something. So that gets me thrilled, right? Like I love enthusiasm, and like that you have enthusiasm for your art.
Well, that's all very nice. Thank you. I appreciate all that you said. But a successful portrait is really just, there has to be something the subject can give to the photographer. And so I found that I've photographed you 3-4 times probably in the last
3-4 delightful times. I can tell you the first time.
Really?
Exactly.
Where was that?
May 2007.
What?
Isn't that crazy? I know.
I don't even remember that.
At the old Kids Food Basket building on the west side by John Bell
yes.
Park.
Now I remember,
And
yeah.
you did my shoot for an article. And I still love that picture. It was like
I don't
still
know.
one of
See,
my
that- I
very
was
favorite
so
ones ever.
stripped down because that publication I do 2 or 3 shoots a week, and it was like super run and gun.
It was amazing though. You took it from like above, and there was like me and like all these like fresh fruits and vegetables.
Sounds very editorial.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. So I loved it. So thank you. So that was my number one experience. And you're right. There have been like 3 or 4 since then.
Well, and the last couple times you spoke at Failure Lab, and I did a portrait of you there, and that's a different environment and a different sort of thing. But today I was thinking that I knew you're going to wear black.
Oh yeah. Yep. That's
because that's the thing. But for you,
and there's like loads of like deep-seated, very specific, strategized reasons for that. Like it's not just like a.
Well, tell me about your wardrobe.
Are you
approach.
do you want to go down that path?
You have a strategy?
I totally have a strategy.
Let's hear the strategy around a wardrobe.
Well, okay, so first off, like there's my master's is in social justice, and the professors in my program used to wear all black as like a symbolism of solidarity.
In mourning for the current state of affairs.
Well, this was like even before the current state. I mean, obviously, but like yes, but it was in solidarity with oppression around the world, and like that's cool and edgy,
really,
right? And yeah,
so that's cool.
Yeah, like all black in solidarity. Like I recognize, right? Like I am awakened to the problems, which is really what woke me. You know, my husband's always like, "Can you stop using that term?" Right? But like,
well, I think there's the sort of the woke sort of version that everyone's like, you know, you can play with that just in kind of a slang term.
Yeah.
But everybody needs an awakening.
An awakening, exactly. Yeah. So like in wearing all black, I am awakened to the oppression around the world, and like I symbolize that with how I choose to dress. So like that was how I first started it. It was for that purpose. And then it became, I realized that it really became like a part of who I was. And I think branding is important. We all need to be authentically ourselves. Wearing all black is authentically me. That's part of my brand. All right. And then as I continue to level up, so the next piece of it is that it is automated decision making. And so when you don't have to think about your wardrobe, you're automating a decision. And so, you know, as a mom and of little kids and as a CEO, I have to make decisions all day, and big decisions and things that take a lot of thought and things that affect thousands and thousands of people and have, you know, strong ripple effects, right?
Yeah.
I need to think about all these things. And it's critical to me that I don't run into decision-making fatigue, and that I have enough mental capacity and space for those big decisions. And so I automate the decisions that are smaller, and I automate the decisions that don't, I don't even need to think about it.
You don't have to decide it anymore. So that's very smart when you're time managing, because you're like, I know I'm going to wear one of these, you know, 4 jeans or whatever it is, and then this I get a plethora of jackets. They're all in the same wheelhouse. You're not like, oh my gosh, where's my yellow top for this?
Exactly.
Because yellow's not an option.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
These are my sets, and this decision has already been made, and so I don't need to use my brain capacity, my mental capacity in that place. It's already been decided. And so I have found that the more I can do this, and I do it with what I make for my kids for dinner if I'm doing that.
Wait a minute. You told me, what is the limit? You told me earlier during the shoot that you can only cook one thing. And what is that?
This is brutal honesty here, Brian. This is like raw.
Let's level
BCW
down
time.
to this level.
Fine. All right. I'm just going to come out with it. I have many skill sets. Cooking is not one. So if I am in charge of dinner, which is usually only 1 to 2 times a week, and that's because, you know, everybody shares responsibilities.
You're hedging.
All right, let's get down to it. I make really amazing scrambled eggs and smoothies, and that's about that's.
I love it. I would come to your dinner at your house.
Word. I could make other things than that if I set my mind to it.
True.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
I do not believe that becoming an expert in that skill set is my best yes. And I'm all about my best yes. I'm all about spending my time in my best yes.
Where does that come from, best yes? Because that sounds like a Seth Godin sort of like some kind of mind. I'm saying it in a positive way.
Yeah.
It's like some contemporary thinker come up with the best yes, because you can't say yes to everything is what you're saying.
I totally get that, and I'm sure some amazing contemporary thinker came up with it.
I'm now appropriating it just like you did, and I'm not crediting anybody else about it.
I would credit, but I mean, if I'm going to credit, it's going to be Afton DeVos, our COO at Kids Food Basket.
Afton.
I mean, she's the one. She is like an incredible partner. We are incredible partners together.
So for not from me, because we know each other, but you're the founding CEO of Kids Food Basket. So tee up that, and then we'll get back to Afton and the partnerships it requires to run this organization. So the elevator pitch that you give all the time for KFB, what is it? Kids Food Basket is what?
Yes, awesome. So yes, founding CEO at Kids Food Basket. I'm in my 17th year of leading the organization. I'm 38, so I've been doing this since I was a senior in college. And I mean, it's an incredible privilege and honor to do this work. We are continuing to evolve as an organization. Our goal is around food equity. Our goal is making sure that every child has the nutritious tools that they need to be their best, both in school and in life. And we believe that every child has a right to healthy, nourishing food.
Yeah.
We believe that healthy food is a right, not a privilege.
So that's the platform. What's the action? Because
Yeah.
that's what always blows people away,
Right.
is how you fulfill that. So how do you go about, it's great. Okay, great, Bridget.
Yep.
Kids should have food equity. I'm on board. How are we going to solve this thing, and what do you guys do physically every day to help make sure kids have exactly what they need?
Exactly. And this is what I feel is making such a huge impact. What we do is access. So every single day, we are delivering healthy evening meals, healthy sack suppers, they're called. They're bags full of fresh fruits and vegetables, healthy snacks, healthy dairies, healthy proteins. We deliver them to children. It's barrier-free access to healthy fresh fruits and vegetables, access to healthy food that kids may not otherwise have access to.
Yeah.
And that's what, poverty is barriers, right? Kids who are in poverty.
Because I don't think, because when I first heard about Kids Food Basket, which has been a long time, since probably I shot you, in 2006, 7, 8.
Right.
I didn't realize that kids in Kent County, and now you service surrounding counties as well, are hungry. And then it was an awakening in that if you connect the dots to many other problems that kids face, if the baseline is you're hungry, you're not concentrating in school, you may end up, I'm taking an example, you might steal some food from a candy store or wherever down the street. I mean, decisions based on hunger, you can't, there's consequences for that, and it's not their fault, So, there's systems in place. So, petty criminal charges, and they end up, anyway, I'm going down the wrong road. But the point
You're
is,
right. Yeah.
But you can't sit through a day at school if you haven't had a meal.
Exactly. Teachers can't teach, and kids can't learn when they're hungry, and that's the truth. But poverty causes hunger, and poverty is a result of hunger. Hunger is both a symptom of poverty and a cause of poverty, and that's the real problem, is poverty, right?
Yeah.
And hunger is something that it can prevent children from reaching their full potential. Right? It can prevent brains from being developed fully.
Sure.
It can put kids in situations where they have really difficult behavioral issues and sicknesses and truancy, right?
Yeah.
And lack of academic progression.
Sure.
There is so many results that come from hunger. When kids have access to healthy food every day, they have more opportunity. They have more potential.
Well, it automates one decision for them. They're not hungry.
Yes.
How about that?
Yes.
How about
But
that as a host?
That word, bro, that is so good.
This
and
is
it's
not
true.
my 5th interview. It's like the 500.
It's true, though. That reminds me of a story. I met a teacher one time. I had a Kids Food Basket fundraiser, and she's a teacher at one of our East Side elementary schools in Grand Rapids. And she told me how she was going to quit teaching, and how teaching was just, teachers are quitting at record rates. And she said the behavior in her classroom was so difficult. She had so many behavior issues in her classroom that she was done. She was done with her career, and she told her partner that she was going to be done at the end of the year, and she might even be done in the middle of the year. And Kids Food Basket was on their waiting list. And then that January, we took that school off of our waiting list. It was January. And we started serving her school healthy, nourishing meals each and every weekday, starting in January. And I met her in March. And she told me that she realized it only took her between January and March to realize that there was not a behavioral issue in her classroom, that there was a hunger problem in her classroom.
Amazing.
Right? That is so big.
Can you also explain for the audience how you fulfill these? These are sack suppers, so you have all these volunteers that make thousands and thousands and literally thousands and thousands.
Yes, exactly.
And thousands of lunches every week.
Yeah, and it's dinners. It's
And,
dinners.
well,
right?
I'm
But
sorry.
it looks like lunches.
But it looks sack dinner. But it requires an army of volunteers.
Word, yes.
And a delivery system that's complicated, and getting it into the kids' hands.
Yes.
And into
Yes.
their buses, and then all kinds of stuff. So explain the explosive growth of this idea, because it just kills me in society that we have this problem, and it takes an organization like Kids Food Basket to address it as a nonprofit. We're talking about poverty and we're talking about baseline human rights, a right to eat and not be hungry.
Right.
I can't imagine being hungry. I mean, look at me. I don't go hungry for 5 seconds.
Well, and it's that your time is into your craft, and your craft is making the world better in your way, right? And we all work through our journey in different ways. And I think so going back to what you said about how we're able to get thousands and thousands of meals. We are one of the largest volunteer, one of the largest volunteer programs in the country. And we have 250 volunteers a day, 250 different volunteers a day. And they are making meals, they're delivering meals to schools, right? And every time a child gets a meal in their hand, it's not a Band-Aid. We are literally changing the system because we are providing access to healthy, nourishing food, which is breaking down barriers and helping kids reach their full potential. It's critical. But the way in which we've done this, because we're not funded by the government, we're not funded by government dollars. Our programming, each one of those meals is charitably funded by our community and people that care deeply about food equity, people that care deeply about kids having the right and kids having access to healthy food, right? So what we've realized is that you can't do something of this magnitude, 8,000 meals a day, without building a movement. And so we have, yes, every day Kids Food Basket is providing food and getting food into kids' hands. And that's our mission. But our mission is also building a movement. And the building of the movement also needs resources and capacity, because we need to make this a community engaged organization. Anyone from anywhere can be a part of making sure the world is a better place.
Right. And I think that's huge, because one, I love talking to you because it's so, your energy, and this is why you lead this organization and this effort, because you're so just on fire for this, and you articulate it in such a way that doesn't blame anybody. We can all point to whatever systems, it doesn't help. We can affect maybe something down the road. I don't want to get down a sidetrack, but is affecting some type of policy change around this stuff in governmental sort of access and changing some systems that are consistently a problem. But you articulate so well, and you're able to motivate. So you're doing 250. Well, I just want to clarify: 250 volunteers a day. Tomorrow there's 250 other volunteers. These aren't by osmosis through these people going out in the community. They're spreading the word. They're getting more awareness for Kids Food Basket, to the point now where you've outgrown this incredible facility you have now, and you're building. So I want to encapsulate Kids Food Basket so people know right away your perspectives on some things, and then we can meander into all kinds of stuff. But explain what's exciting about this growth and the impact it's having on the community, such that you are building an amazing growing facility for fresh food, and also packing and warehousing and distribution of this stuff to feed hungry kids in, where are you? Kent County, Ottawa County, Muskegon County?
Boom, right on.
Boom.
You're right on. Nice.
Tri-County.
Hostess with the most.
Yeah.
Killing it. That's exactly right.
My tagline is great guests, mediocre host.
Okay.
That's my tagline. I nailed that one, though.
Listen, here's what you're doing, though. You're just blowing that expectation way out of the water. See, there you go. Leave it low, right? And then blow it out of the...
I'm going to have to change the tagline.
Blow the expectation out of the water, because you are an amazing host. Yes, that's all accurate, everything you said. Thank you for bringing that up. We're very thrilled to be developing the last remaining farmland in all of Grand Rapids City proper. It's a 10-acre piece of farmland. We're growing fresh fruits and vegetables, chemical-free, sustainable, and we're teaching kids on the farm how to grow food. Bottom line, when kids grow it, they eat it. When they understand where it comes from and why it's important for their bodies, and they are empowered to grow it, they eat it. That's so critical, right?
It's fun to eat if you grow it.
It is. Yeah. And one of the reasons we're moving out of our facility currently, our lease is up. We've always been renters, and that facility, while is been great for us, lease is up, and we're program locked. So every day I wake up, every day, and this is emotional for me. We have 15 schools on a wait list. Wait list, right? If you walked in, which Gosh, I hope you do, Brian. With $5 million tomorrow, and you say, "Hey, I want to take all those schools off a wait list." My answer to you is that we can't.
I might need a couple more weeks.
Right.
To come up with $5 million.
Good to know. Good to know. But my answer is we can't. Not this space, because we're actually program locked. We don't have any more space for people to park. We don't have any more space for meals. Right.
You have no more capacity.
Physical capacity, and so that is. And then we looked around Kent County, and we looked around to find a new headquarters. The bottom line was wasn't anything that could fit our needs, which was a place to teach kids how to grow and a place to grow and a place to grow in the meals that we were providing. There wasn't anywhere to do that was centrally located. And being close to the schools we serve is critical in order to be able to do the best service. And so staying in town, staying in the city, staying in the middle of the county is critical. We found this beautiful piece of farmland, and so we are building the building next door. And the goal is to be a nutrition hub, right? Both this farmland and this building to be a nutrition hub here in West Michigan, definitely to chip away at that waiting list, to teach kids, thousands of kids, where food comes from, why that's important, why they need to make healthy food choices for their body lifelong, right? And to be a place where we can work in an intersectionality. This is really important. Working in an intersectionality of what the community needs from us and what we're good at. And that's where we want to grow. The intersection of what Grand Rapids needs and what Kent County needs and what Muskegon needs and Ottawa County and what Kids Food Basket is good at, and food access to all, and work in that intersection, right, and grow there. And that's super important for us, is to have a space to be able to do that, and that's the goal. That's what's happening
now. So when
now.
is all that coming online? I know you were growing food last year, into harvest.
Totally in test phase, which was awesome. Worked out really well. We grew 87,000 individual serving sizes of fresh fruits and vegetables last summer. 87,000 in our test summer, which was amazing. So this summer, growing fruits and vegetables and starting, we'll be starting on that land probably at the end of this month and growing all the way until the beginning of October. The goal is to be in the building by the end of summer and to be welcoming the community into the space to increase nutrition access into early fall.
Okay. So I admire you as a leader and as a thinker in this space.
Thank you.
And it requires this passion and energy that just fuels you and may consume you at times in ways that are unhealthy because you're so passionate about it.
I'm so passionate. Thank you.
Yeah. But where did that go? So you've been doing this. So you're 21 when you started this.
Yeah, 22. Yep.
22.
Yep.
Like, where are you out of college? Like, what sort of impact, what kind of story is there behind what you went to college for, of a social justice major?
Yeah.
And where is that? Where does that ignite? Like, where does that flame come from? Because now it's a forest fire. So where's the flame?
Thank you. Yeah, you know what? And it doesn't dim. It doesn't dim. Like, I feel so pulled and called to this work, right? To equity work. And it's just a part of who I am. It's like my DNA. That every day it is, I am so on fire for this work and for the people who are engaged in this work and making the organization better and sharing the message and the vision and the goals with as many people as possible. Like, it's like I'm hungry to create this movement that is all about social justice, right? And so
Where did you grow up?
Right, I was born in Pittsburgh. I'm from Pittsburgh originally.
How long were you in Pittsburgh?
Go Pens. We were in Pittsburgh until the late 80s, and so I was only there until I was 8. But it was just a really important part of my life, and I have just great memories. We still have lots of family there, and really lots of close friends and friends that were like family.
I love Pittsburgh, by the way. I've done a couple projects there, and I was always blown away by Pittsburgh. And it has a correlation for me to Grand Rapids in that I didn't have really high expectations for Pittsburgh when I went there, and it blew me off the map.
Yeah,
and the same thing happens when people visit Grand Rapids.
Totally.
I think it's like whatever. They've never heard of it, or they're like, I have no idea. And then they get here, and they're like, holy cow, there's stuff going on.
I've all 3 cities that I've lived in, Pittsburgh, Detroit, Grand Rapids, those are my 3 cities, and all 3 of them I just love deeply with like a deep passion.
And it gets back to setting the bar low for people's expectations, which
good
I
one.
do every
good
day.
One. Yeah.
Which is like, set the bar low and then just exceed expectations.
Well, in both Pittsburgh...
That's really not my business platform, but anyway, it's something to think about.
You blowing people out of the water. How about that? Let's think about it glass half full,
That's my new
Brian.
tagline.
Let's think about it, glass half full, blowing people out of the water. Unexpected genius, right? Like surprisingly magnificent. Surprisingly magnificent is really good. Just, blow people out of the water. That's good. That could be part of your branding, is just your delightful surprise with everything you're going to get from the BK experience.
Yeah. It's an experience.
The BK experience. Let's talk about it, because everything is experience. Let's get into that, actually.
All right.
Yeah. So back to Pittsburgh real quick, and then I love the experience. The BK experience is what's up. So Pittsburgh, loved it. Still have lots of family there. But when I was there, my parents have been part of the social justice movement. My dad is a criminal defense attorney, and has worked, my whole life.
It's all starting to make sense.
Yeah.
Because I have my uncle-in-law, my wife's uncle, was a public defender for many years.
Right.
And they just have a different mindset.
They do. They see the world they have a deep understanding of poverty.
They see the inequity every day walks into their office.
Yes. And now my brother does it. So my dad and my brother work together. They have their own firm, and they work specifically
where are they?
In criminal defense work. In criminal defense appellate work, they're in Detroit.
Okay.
And they're Clark and Clark, and they're the Clarks, is how they're related, or how they are referred. But they work with people who have been victimized by institutionalized poverty, right? And by systemic racism. And oftentimes young men who have been victims of the system since a very, very young age, and who have maybe made choices at a very young age because they were trying to survive, right? And because of that have been in the systems, and now they are working to get them lives.
Yeah.
I mean, my brother had a case recently where, it was a young man that had been put in prison at 16 for life, right? And he was able to get him in an appeals, get him through appeals court, and he won his case, and now he has a new lease on life, right? Like, that's
unbelievable.
Anyway, so that is what I grew up with my father doing.
If that's your perspective on the world, then I'm not saying it doesn't require your own thinking on the subjects, but like it definitely creates a path for you that seems open and possible, because other people might have a different environment and they go, I understand these things abstractly are a problem, but I don't really see a nuts and bolts way forward. And you saw your father and now your brother are on the front lines of that, much like you're on the front lines of your own social justice cause.
Oh, thank you. And they do that in a way that is their skill sets, aligned with their skill sets.
Right.
And I feel like I'm, aligned with mine. But my parents, very, very, very socially progressive and deep hearts for social justice, very passionate about it. So that's how I grew up. We moved to Detroit, and in moving to Detroit as a young person, saw a lot of inequity, right? Like, you just see it. And there's this very clear, distinct line between Grosse Pointe and Detroit. And my whole life that's affected me, where there's literally a traffic light. And on one side of the traffic light, like, lawns are manicured and houses are beautiful, and they're right along the lakeshore, right? And it's just, everybody's happy and everybody's white, right? Yeah. And then you cross this traffic light, and especially in the 80s, and it's in the community is, I think, become gentrified in a way, and also has had a lot of capacity put into it since then. But in the 80s, there would be this very clear division. And to understand the racial inequity that existed there in Detroit and how segregated Detroit was really, I think, sparked a rage in me, even as a young person, as a high school person. Sure. And I really committed to work in social justice, because that image, right? Like, that scene, and understanding what that meant, what that was a metaphor for, and that was existing all over our country, that inequity sparked a fire in me to work for social justice for everyone, for justice for everyone.
I hesitate to stop your train of thought, but I wanted to talk about Detroit a minute, because I have a lot of experience in Detroit. I've shot personal projects there, and part of my personal awakening, of a sub-theme of this, our conversation today, is sort of like awakenings into what we are, have shaped us. One was just getting to know the people in Detroit proper, and that those are the most devastated parts of Detroit. They were the most economically fragile, and it's 82 or 83% African American.
Exactly.
And the way that the school systems are at a detriment because of the property tax implications of how schools are funded. It's interlocked. You can't have declining property values, and schools have to cut their budgets.
That's right.
So you can't hire teachers. You have all this attrition. Like, it's this perpetuating thing. And all the suburban schools all throughout that county are racially different. Property values are different.
That's right.
And so you're trapped, is my point.
Yep.
But people don't realize the residue of these older systems. And I'm not even saying Maybe I am. But there was a system that was sort of intentional in keeping things that way. Now it doesn't seem like it's as intentional.
Right.
It's just collateral damage from this old system, which was very much divided around and segregated around racial politics and boundaries in neighborhoods. So
Exactly.
Anyway, so
And
take it however you want to take that, but that's like, that was one awakening, was like,
Totally.
oh, I understand how this is happening now, because I think white guy me 10 years ago was, well, they're just not working hard. They should go get a job. And if there's illiteracy in Detroit, which is a huge problem, is the schools aren't good, and there's perpetuated problem. Then you're not employable. So me, just as 10,000 feet, was like, oh, they just, American dream, work harder, everybody's self-destiny. It's like, no, their destiny was decided before they hit kindergarten.
oh my gosh, and it is. I mean, poverty is generational.
Yeah.
Poverty is generational, and we see that here in Grand Rapids too. It is the institutionalized poverty and racism that exists in Detroit. I mean, it runs so deep, and it's so historic. And we are now in 2019 in a place where all of our generations are way more awakened, and media has a lot to do with this, right? And just a deeper understanding of how we got to that point. People are becoming more and more awakened. We have the brilliant young people who are innovating. We have amazing nonprofits and philanthropic partners who are investing just gigantic, beautiful resources into the city and into the state that are working to dismantle these issues. However, these are some of our society's most pressing problems, and it takes time. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Yeah. But it is beautiful to see all of the energy, both around the systemic issues in Detroit and in Grand Rapids. There's so much enthusiasm and energy and positivity and resources, right? But because it's so deep-seated and it's so historical, it is a marathon, not a sprint. Right. And so this is work that is long. It is hard. Social justice work was never meant to be easy, right? It's never meant to be easy, but that is the great part too, is that we are building movements and continuing to rally people around this, and that we have so much more available resources and people who are awakened to the problems. Yeah. And because so many people are awakened to the problems, we can create movements that are unstoppable. And that's, I'm a diehard optimist, and that's the way I see it, is that we are on fire. The state is on fire. We are doing good. There's good every time you look, right? Like, you can turn a corner and Google search anything, and there's good things that are happening in this state, right? On both sides of the state, especially in these areas where there has previously been so much oppression.
Well, and I think that enthusiasm in this fire is contagious, and it spreads through people like you. Like, it doesn't spread through most people. Like, most of us have our own silos of interest and silos of passion. But it's people like you who are at the top of this thing, sort of really shaping and being visible about these problems, or articulating the problems that people that, like me and other people, or suburban people, or whoever it might be, are like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize kids are hungry in Grand Rapids. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Like, that's the majority of people don't really understand, because they don't have that background. They've never had that deficit.
Sure. Yeah. And that's we throw in a lot of data here. 30,000 kids just in Kent County struggle with food insecurity. Here's a visual. Fill up the Van Andel Arena 3 times over. That's how many kids struggle with food insecurity in one
daily,
county.
Every minute of their lives.
In
That's
one
the
county.
Thing. It's not just, you can't just say, oh,
right.
No, every minute they're at a deficit from just a food basis.
That's right. All of these snow days, kids weren't getting meals at school. 49,000 children in Kent County, the county we're in right now, 49,000 children receive free or reduced school lunch. Okay.
Yeah. So you made a post about that recently, that caused heightened concern around that area and that time. Mm-hmm. And again, this is where you bring perspective and more greater understanding of a problem. Is those kids didn't go to school, which means they didn't get a sack dinner that night.
Right. So breakfast, lunch, sack dinner. 8,000, at least 8,000 children.
They missed all their meals those days, many of them, or they had to rely on whatever they could get from their home.
In our emergency food provision, so we did emergency food at 15 different locations, around 9 of them here in Kent County, and the remaining 6 on the lakeshore. And between those 15 distribution locations, locations, we distributed 10,000 meals in 3 days of emergency food distribution. 10,000
all
meals
in the
in 3
midst
days.
of a winter vortex
Yeah.
and horrible snow
Exactly.
and brutal cold.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter. You got
No.
you got out what you could get
That
out.
is just what we do at Kids
Yeah.
Food Basket. It's who we are. I mean, my staff, our team, they were driving around in their 1996 Honda Civics, right? They were driving around in their 2002 Ford Focuses in this weather to make sure that there was food for people all over the city. Like we showed up because we care very deeply. And, we were getting phone calls right and left from teachers, from families saying, what can we do? Is there anything that you can do? Are you open? Can you help us, right? We're going to respond because that's who we are. And we're going to do it in a way that we know how to do it best, which is creating a movement around the work, engaging people in the work, and getting access to good, healthy, nourishing food, giving access.
Yeah.
That's who we are. And so in whether it's crisis or day to day, we're going to do it. Yeah. And I was really, really, really proud of our team. Everyone did incredible work. And I was, proud of our community and grateful, very grateful for our community and all the support that we got through that. And it's an important talking point. We have 49,000 kids just in one county that weren't receiving the meals that they needed. And so these are really big numbers. But again, hunger is a symptom of poverty and it's a cause of poverty. Our unemployment rate, people will say to me, oh, Bridget, our unemployment rate is really low right now. Like, I don't really get that. Why are there so many kids that are in poverty? Well, it's not necessarily families where there aren't working parents.
Right.
We have people who are underemployed, right? Our ALICE workers, asset limited, income constricted, employed. And we have thousands and thousands of people in this community that are in that situation. They cannot make ends meet, right?
They're doing all the things that they should. Then going back to what I was saying, you just need to work harder or pick up another job or, bootstrap it through. They're already bootstrapping.
That's right.
And they can't
Poverty is expensive.
Yeah.
That's a difficult place to be. And that's one of the reasons why we continue to grow. Yeah.
Well, I want to, I think we hit Kids Food Basket really hard. I mean, that's your brand and identity is this mission because, everybody knows you as the leader and catalyst for that organization. But I want to know more about, you have your own food journey. And things, and you've made this amazing transformation the last 3 or 4 years
Thank you.
between that and changing some things. And I actually knew you. I think, did I set you up with Craig, the fitness guy? Did I recommend him?
Our mutual friend Chrissy did. She's going to love this shout out. She's going to love that shout out.
Chrissy.
But as soon as I met our amazing mutual friend Craig.
But I validated her. I didn't say Chrissy doesn't know what she's talking about. Craig is good because Craig was training.
He's
me
fantastic. Yeah.
Anyway.
That whole crowd is fantastic. Shout out.
Chrissy Haney.
But yes, so I have been, and actually my journey with Craig started 2 years ago in June, so not quite 2 years ago. But my health journey really started in early winter of 2016. And it really goes back a long time since I was a kid, really. I've had inflammatory issues. And inflammatory issues are, oftentimes caused by a leaky gut, right? And something that's triggering inflammation in your body. And for me, a lot of that has centered around my thyroid. And it's very common for women. It's not very common for children to have that, but I have it on both sides of my family. And I had some leaky gut issues as a child. And so that triggered this inflammation for me, which has been a part of my life my whole life. Like I can look back at pictures of myself in high school, with like a lot of puffiness in my face. Like clearly I was being affected by it then. And I did not get my arms around it. I'm
reverse aging back to your state in high school.
Yeah.
With the puffiness.
There you go. Yeah, I keep saying reverse aging because I don't feel like I was, ever, and my parents always had healthy food in the house, thank goodness, because I think that probably kept my inflammation at bay more than it would have been. But, I do have food allergies and food sensitivities that none of this was realized until later. And so this is actually good for listeners, I think, anyone who has inflammatory issues, because, it can be triggered by something that we may not know we have and triggered by something that happens years and years and years in the past. And so, for me, it's a lot of it centered around my thyroid, but then inflammatory issues are like if you take a football field and fill it with mousetraps, and then you drop a ping pong ball in that football field full of mousetraps, and it just goes boom, 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 boom. And that's what inflammatory issues are like in your body, and that's how they affect, it's a building, how it affects itself. And so for me, once I had a baby in 2012, all of that ramped up, and I had more inflammatory issues than having a second baby. But at the time
I got really sick.
I got really sick. I got really sick. I almost died.
Yeah.
in 2015.
But tell me, but don't just brush over. I almost died. Like it's like, could I have another cup of coffee,
Right.
please? I mean,
right.
I mean,
Good point.
you're so sick with this that brings you down. I imagine sort of gradually, but you're just getting to a point where you. So tell me, like, what was that part like? What were the yeah? How did you get to a point where it was that critical? And I'm not saying that in a blame way, but what are the chain of events that happened that got you down there?
Yeah. So I'm running this organization, and we're a charitably funded nonprofit, which is different than being a nonprofit that brings in an income, like Goodwill, for example, brings in an income, or that is funded by the government. Charitably funded means you constantly have to be raising money and constantly need to be creating trust and creating, just really strong platforms of credibility and be out there and branding to be able to bring in enough resources to make your organization work, right? And so that has always been a lot of pressure, and it's very joyful for me too. It's so much joy in being able to serve that way. But doing that and needing to put my whole life into that was my life. And then I had a baby and realized that I also had to be a parent. And so now it's all of the responsibility that comes along with feeding thousands of kids a day, raising the money for that, and having always multiple schools and thousands of kids on a wait list.
Yeah.
Tremendous amount of pressure. Add a baby to that.
I mean, you're hitting all the stress boxes. You know what I mean? Like for...
Right. Running an organization, building an organization. Yeah. I've never had another job.
Yeah.
So I had to learn how to run a multi-million-dollar organization, learn how to be a leader, learn how to, work through my shit, right? And like be a really strong leader that can actually do this.
Yeah.
And it is a journey, right? And it's constantly working on yourself. And I was putting, everything in front of my body, everything. So the organization, the work, the baby, everything was more important than my body.
Weight,
yes.
The weight emotionally is on your back.
Right.
That.
Yeah. Carrying all of that. It's a tremendous amount of stress and pressure. And then my husband got put on a project in India. This is in early 2015. Great timing. And we found out about this project the same day we found out we were pregnant with our second. And so he was gone. He was in India. He went to India 14 times in 17 months. So the whole time I was pregnant.
It's not a quick trip.
No.
It's not a day trip to India.
14 times in 17 months. And it was like, 2 to 3 weeks at a time. So I was pregnant that whole time. And then I had a newborn that whole time. And all of this pressure of running this massively growing organization.
Yeah.
And we don't have any family in Grand Rapids or any family in West Michigan. So doing it, a lot of it alone.
Right. And you're not inclined, I don't think, to be one to say, hey, I need help to the outside people. You know what I mean?
It was tough.
Double down on that because you're like, I should get that. I'm running all this stuff. I should be able to handle my biz at home.
It was a really, really hard couple of years. And so through that, though, my inflammatory issues got so much worse. It was a tough pregnancy because of that. The recovery from the pregnancy was even worse. And then, having him gone and having a newborn. So I'm running this, at the time, $4 million organization with a toddler and a newborn, a husband, a partner in India. All of that just made these inflammatory issues so bad that my blood pressure was really high. And that's why I say, I almost died because my blood pressure was so high that my doctor kept telling me that she was concerned I was going to stroke out.
Yeah.
And it was all inflammation. Like you can look at pictures of my face from then. And I remember I got 40 under 40 that year, and my 40 under 40 picture, like you can barely see my eyes. There's so much inflammation in my face. Anyway, that was a really tough, it was a tough season. It was a season, right?
Yeah. I don't know if we were recording, but we were joking earlier about seasons. Oh no, I was talking about the seasons of the whale, or the we're talking about the season of me being on an iceberg in Lake Michigan.
Yeah, well, there you go.
It was a season. So
it was really tough.
A season of being really difficult. And so, where's the turning point where you're like, I'm changing today, right now?
Yeah, it got. I just felt horrible. Like I felt so. Like physically felt and mentally, and I had times where I had trouble writing because my inflammation in my brain was so bad, and I had trouble like even just writing my name. I had trouble reading and paying attention.
And I'll bet knowing you as just knowing you, I bet nobody knew you were going through that. Like professionally?
No.
Nobody. Because
No.
you're just going to drive through it. So
No.
the more adversity
No
you
one
put
knew.
in front of you, you're going to just keep driving
Yeah.
through it. You're going to go at it harder.
I did go at it harder. I
Yeah.
did go at it harder. And I also had very much this realization that something needed to significantly change. And I knew it was physical, right? I knew that this was the root cause. Something physically was happening, and I had to make decisions to change something and figure something out, uncover. And so I remember it was January of 2016 when I was just started doing my research. And I was reading about Hashimoto's, which is the thyroid disease I have. I had a CAT scan that showed that the majority of my thyroid had been destroyed. I only have a small part of my thyroid that's left. And I had gotten this CAT scan. I was doing all this research. And so through that, I learned about inflammatory issues, and I learned about inflammatory diets, and I learned about supplementation that can be taken for inflammatory issues. And I had just a season
Yeah.
where I was just consuming as much information as I could
Right.
about what was wrong with my body and how to fix it.
Right.
And I committed really to 4 things. And these 4 things I have not gone back from. So now we're in fall, or winter rather, of 2019. So it's been about 3 years since this started. And these 4 things, the right kind of thyroid medication, which I realized I was on the wrong kind, I'm now on the right kind, a very clear and well-researched supplementation process, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where like things that I was deficient in and how to level myself back up, and getting blood tests for all of that first, not just doing it on my own,
Sure,
because
sure.
that's critical.
Yeah.
Number 3 is a very strict diet of eating anti-inflammatory foods and eating a non-inflammatory diet, and that's been really important, and I've stuck with it. Number 4, an exercise routine, first that had to be very, very mild, and calm, cool, collected exercise
Right.
routine,
'Cause
and
you
then
didn't
can
want
be
to stress your body
adrenals.
physically on top of something that was already a problem.
Exactly, because I already had adrenal fatigue and I already had compromised adrenals because of the thyroid issues and because of the endocrine system issues. So I had to make sure that I was very intentional about how I did that routine and ramped it up. Fortunately, I was working with this amazing trainer who was like, understood that and could create a routine that intersected with what my biological needs were, right, and physical needs were. And so that being number 4. So
Yeah.
diet, supplementation, the right thyroid medication, and exercise.
Wow.
And I've really
But
stuck
the
with
results,
it.
yeah, you can tell.
Thank
because,
you.
I mean, I'm not at all putting it on like body image stuff, but just you look healthier. And I'm
Thank
saying
you.
like people can be beautiful of all sizes. That's not my point. But the point is that you are such a transformation that
Thank you.
you look very healthy.
Thank you.
You took a mean portrait earlier too. by the way.
Oof, thank you.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, so how does that affect your mindset now?
Yeah.
You're healthier.
Yeah.
How does that affect your family life and just
Yeah.
your daily I'm just curious because I do want to get back on that
Yeah,
train.
thank you for saying that. It's a loaded question.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's just so many answers to that. And I think that in a lot of ways, I do feel like I have reversed age. I've stopped the quick aging process on my body and given my body more attention and more care than I ever gave it in 30 years. Because I remember starting to not feel well when I was about 6. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a long time ago, right?
And that becomes your normal.
Yes.
Right? So you don't even know.
It was. Oh my gosh. I remember being in high school and I had chemistry class junior year, first thing in the morning. And every day, my brain was in this constant state of fog. Well, I know now and some of your listeners are probably gonna be like, oh, blah, blah, blah. I have a deep gluten allergy. People who have thyroid issues should not eat gluten because your thyroid, there's something about gluten that your thyroid thinks that it's thyroid hormone, and your thyroid makes less thyroid hormone when you put gluten in your body, right? So you actually make less hormone when you have gluten. Right. And I would eat a bagel every morning, and I'd go into chemistry class, and my brain would be so foggy, I could not pay attention. And I remember thinking to myself, how is it that everybody in this classroom understands what the hell is up there on that board,
Right.
except for me, right? And it was brain
because
fog.
you didn't know it, but you ate like an anchor and you put it around your waist and you had to drag that around through class in the morning. And
Totally.
it was just a physical reaction to something.
But my compensation skills are great,
Yes.
right? My mom has always told me that. My compensation skills are great. So I'm friends with everyone in the classroom, and I'm friends with the teacher, right? So I never do badly because everybody that I'm friends with in the classroom becomes my lab partners,
Yeah.
and they're doing the work. It's not that I was trying to get out of work. I just had brain fog. So my compensation skills are great, which means that I was able to make it through that. But still, like that was, I can have those distinct memories. And so anyway, oh my gosh, Brian, I totally lost my train of thought here. How did I even get into talking about chemistry class?
We were just we were talking about the impact on your life and like what positive results are there now that you are feeling so much healthier, and how that spreads through tentacles through your life now.
So sorry. Anyway, I do feel
I was listening too.
Thank you.
I brought it back.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I do. Clearly, like maybe my short-term memory isn't.
Maybe we're both foggy too.
But that could be from other things.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just was in this, I'm in this state of life where I feel like I've got more energy. I feel clearer. I feel like I am a better leader. I am a better mother. I'm a better friend. I'm a better family member. I'm a better everything because I have put self-care first.
Yeah.
And that's why
the hardest part.
Yes.
Right?
And that's why I'm not shy talking about this.
Yeah.
I don't mind talking about it. I'm very vulnerable in this space, and I'm very happy to talk about it because the decisions that we are making about our body right now affect us in 5 years, affect us in 10 years. We only get one body. We only get one,
I feel
right?
like you're talking to me
and,
now,
and
not
that's
just everybody.
Then I'm glad to do that because it's just so critical that we put our bodies and our minds and our every aspect, physical, spiritual, right? Like mentally, physically, we put that all first because then we can be better for everybody else.
Right.
And it took me, a really long time, right? Until I didn't feel good until I was 37. Because even though I started doing this right around the time I was turning 36, I didn't feel good for a good year and a half.
Right.
And I started feeling good about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And now I'm like, wow, like I feel, and because of that, I'm watching myself level up as a leader, level up as a parent, continuing to set goals and continuing to work on self-improvement. Because when you work on self-improvement, you are better for everybody around you. And it's so critical.
Yeah, and I think the mindset is like, well, if I don't have time to take, you feel selfish by taking the time for yourself. And I know I'm trying to always encourage my wife to take time out for do things like that because we have an interesting family dynamic, which causes, it's an unusual family dynamic with the health of some of our kids. So, she's very much type A, organized, like she's a charger and going. So we can all do better, and I'm not picking on my wife by any means, but I'm just, there's an example, and I need to do better, all of us, of just saying, all right, time out. I need to put a wall around this time period every day or this week or 3 times a week. I'm just going to do this, and that's the priority. You schedule, like, we make all kinds of other appointments work, and then, when we can all blame the busy card when it comes to ourselves. And
it's so easy. It's so easy. It's the one thing on your list that you can ignore, and no one is going to feel it but you, at least that day, right? Like you're only accountable to yourself in those situations, and it's because you're not accountable to anyone else, it's the one thing on your list that's easy to pitch out, and no one's going to say anything to you about it, right? No one's going to notice, but it all catches up to you, and that's been that's how it used to be for me for years, and now I've realized it's not always about just that time of day where you're working out, or not always about just that time of day that you choose to put into cooking something really healthy. It's everything. It's what you need. What is it that you need to feel re-energized? What is it that you need to really take care of every part of your body, right? And if eating XYZ, I've learned through this journey that absolutely 100%, it's the food that I put into my body. It's either not good or good. There's really no gray. There's no gray there. Yeah. It's either poison or medicine. And what I choose to put into my body, what I choose to consume becomes how I feel. It becomes how I feel. And I want to feel good. And I owe it to people. That's the other thing. People every day give money to Kids Food Basket. They're giving their hard-earned dollars, their hard-earned resources to our organization so that we can make the world a better place. And I owe it to all of them to be the best leader that I can, right? And so my brain has got to be in good shape. My body's got to be in good shape because I have to be a good leader for our community. And if I'm going to do that, if I'm going to be the best leader I can, I have to treat my body, treat my organs, treat my brain like they are critical, right? Yeah. Just as critical as the issue that we are looking to combat every day, just as critical as it is that kids get nourishing food, it's critical that I get nourishing food so that I can be a good leader.
I could definitely, if I wanted to cry right now, I could tell you, I'll tell you abstractly the story, but I don't want to cry right now. But I have 3 daughters. They're all amazing. 2 of them have specific issues that I don't deal with. So one battle I have for me and myself is when I got really healthy, that was a motivating factor. I didn't have any excuses. I have a perfectly healthy body and makeup, so why I need to be healthier for them and for myself, and I don't have a crutch. I don't have a reason. And so part of this kind of a failure that I feel from where I was at a fitness level and being more healthy is that I'm still surrounded by these kids that I love, but I'm still like, I see in them almost a failure because they work harder every fucking day than I do to just get their clothes on or get out or manage their food or their, whatever it is. So it's kind of this reinforcement that it's hard for me to deal with sometimes. And one way it's amazing catalyst. And now it's almost like now that I've fallen backward and sort of retreated from the physical fitness side of it, it's almost a barrier because I feel some of the shame. It's like, whoa, I can't even keep this together, and it's hard to get off the home plate again, running towards first base. I'm still like waiting. I'm waiting for these pitches to go by, and I still haven't taken my swing. I need my next at bat.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. And I think, Brian, you got to give yourself more credit. Truly, your daughters are so amazing. And I've just, watching your journey through social media and knowing you as a friend and now being a parent and realizing that our kids are so influenced by who we are.
Right.
So your daughters are so amazing because of what they've learned between you and your wife, Like, yes, you can be inspired by them and you can be inspired by who they become as young women and who they're becoming as people. And like, that's inspiring and energizing and wonderful and joyful to watch every day. But they didn't get there by themselves. They got there because they watched you guys and they learned from you guys and they learned what hard work is and they learned how to be good people and they learned how to take care of themselves. That's from you. Right? And like, that's a beautiful thing.
I totally 100% agree. There are we talk about phases, or seasons, but there's all phases of ourselves. So there's parts that they see my vulnerability in certain things and weaknesses where you fall down, and that's okay too, because you shouldn't put your parents on a pedestal like you should any other person. You can admire them and all of that, but in terms of like, you shouldn't ever cultivate, I don't think as a parent, being completely bulletproof and having all the answers. Like, they should be able to see, okay, Dad's in a season right now.
Yeah, in a season. No, I know.
It isn't a healthy one at the moment, but he'll probably pull it back together.
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that. They're good teachers, aren't they?
So I think, part of being overall healthy is saying, I recognize I have problems around this area.
Right.
I'm also excelling and doing awesome in other areas. And that's who I am right now. So,
right.
It's always changing.
And we mentioned this earlier before we were recording. Then sometimes things suffer too, right?
Oh, sure.
It's like that's and that's the part that we are always all on this quest for like being the best people that we are, and oftentimes falling into habits or seasons that aren't necessarily the reflective of our best selves, right? And I think identifying it and naming it and saying this is an area where I am not being my best self right now, and an area that might be falling behind is also really critical.
Yeah.
Like I'm there, I might be doing really well in like the physical aspect and in the leadership aspect, and I'm trying to do pretty well in the parenting aspect. And then there's aspects that I need to work on, right?
No one's hitting at home runs every day in every aspect and compartment of their life. And there's always the yin and the yang that we're talking about.
Do you do a word? Do you do a word every year? You know how like this is like super trendy right now? Like do a word.
I don't do any, meaning for myself.
Yeah, like a word goal.
No.
Yeah, something like that.
I don't know. For me, it's like, and maybe I should. It is about creating intentionality.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And also part of that, what you're saying, is the time for yourself and creating boundaries. It's just time to just actually think about something every day, whether it's the same subject. It's just pausing. Sometimes it can just be a minute or two. And I say this because I don't do it very often. I'm very focused on my career and my family.
Yeah.
And that's where I spend all my energy, but I don't really go, hey, how could I evolve around whatever the word of the year is?
Well, I think
what's your word right now?
So mine's alignment. 2 years ago it was health, and then last year it was strengthen, and this year it's alignment. So like strengthening, and like I've been saying level up a lot too. Like I'm really in this phase of like leveling up, and then being that as a leader, and then encouraging it in those around me, and then really being intentional about how I spend my time to both level up personally and help others level up. And so that's been really, a part of my alignment. But alignment's really interesting because it's like shedding off whatever is not right for you right now, right? And focusing on what is taking you on your journey and what is taking you to level up.
Can I throw a cheesy alignment story in there?
Please,
Because it just occurred to me as you're talking about alignment, is that when things are out of alignment, because I had my car taken in and it needed an alignment.
Yeah.
And the guy goes, these are pretty new tires, right? I'm like, yeah, I just put them on like 3-4 months ago. He's like, well, we're seeing some premature wear on this, so I think you need an alignment. I'm like, well, go for it, dude. Align those puppies because I just paid for those tires.
Yeah.
They need to get me down the road a little bit farther.
Right.
How many more cliches can I throw in
Yeah,
there?
yeah, it's good.
But the point is that this alignment strategy that you have for the year is actually, as you get more in alignment, it's taking less stress off other areas of your life, other wear and tear.
Oh, dang, that's good. Dang, that's
I'm
good.
writing a book.
You are. I mean, that was.
We're just going to transcript this podcast and then just put a binder on it, and then we'll. No, I'm kidding. That's all on you because you made me think of it.
But what's important about that, though, too, is that I think in order to be in alignment with what is right for you and right for your journey and in alignment with your goals, both professionally and personally, you have got to be strong. You've got to be self-aware, right? You have to be emotionally in a good place and spiritually in a good place, physically in a good place. Then you can shed. Then you can shed what is not in alignment for you, right? And I think that is really critical too. And you can't get there without the self-care.
Yeah.
A girlfriend of mine recently, in these massive group texts, had sent out this text message like self-care and then everything else, right? And then everything else. And it's so hard to remember that because it feels like when we do put all of our energy into personally and our energy into our family and our energy into our work, right? We can easily so forget about that. And then we find ourselves out of alignment.
Yeah.
Right? Out of alignment. So there you go. Now it's time to think of a word.
Pretty good full circle moment. So I want to be conscious of your time, and I just want to thank you for coming in. But is there something you thought you'd talk about today, or something you wanted to talk about? I know, I have no track record with this podcast, but you're like, is there anything you thought we should talk about that we haven't talked about?
Gosh, it's great. I mean, we don't want to talk about the current state of our political affairs.
No, because
we don't want to do
all going
that.
to change and be irrelevant in a week or two.
Yeah, and health journey is always, at the top of my mind, and obviously self-care, right, being number one. And I think it's that piece of it. If our listeners today can walk away with something from that, that's super important. So short of talking about how I, like to go dancing until all hours of the night, this is some good stuff that we've covered here. That's a season.
It's a season.
It's a season. Well, but house music is for everybody, right?
It's true.
That's
it's for
true.
any age, and
any age.
Maybe we'll all join you down at Rockies, right?
Yeah, right.
Rockies for dance nights.
I mean, I think I really appreciate what I mentioned earlier. I love this platform that you're doing and the way that you're intersecting your love for community and relationships with art. And now podcasting too is, a way that I think we're able to connect with each other on an even deeper level. It's like, let's bring one another into how the human state is so complex. As human beings, we are complex people.
Part of being intentional, and I've tried to describe why I'm doing this, but like over the years, and just to re-articulate it to you, is that there are many people I meet and collide with for 10 minutes, an hour, a day to do a photo shoot or some project. And there's a lot of conversations that happen that I would love to extend, or I'm learning from people. The best thing about being a photographer for me is that camera is a conduit and a passport to meeting people that I would never meet in my life. And then to have this exchange of a portrait, which is kind of you have to be somewhat vulnerable and sort of trust.
Yeah.
So there's this exchange where we're both kind of vulnerable and figuring things out. But from there, though, then it ends. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, see you, maybe I'll see you next year, Bridget.
Yeah,
or like, I don't know, maybe I'll see you at an event. But this is an intention to bring back to what you're saying. It's being more intentional about let's corral a conversation, and hopefully other people want to hear it too. But it really comes from just personal space and personal development. And I meet people all the time that I've just met, and then I have to sit with them and create a portrait, which is a vulnerable space for them to be in.
Sure.
But there's always an instant connection. after. And they're almost to a fault. There are people that I would love to spend a little more time with. So this podcast is just like, this is a little more time with, kind of.
I love that.
I'm going to rename it.
No, that's a great concept, and it's a great platform. I'm an extrovert, right? And I feel like
Really?
you are too. Yeah.
Wow.
I think the way that we progress on our journey as leaders, as community members, as people who are invested in making the world a better place, this is how we do it, right? Through deep connections, through vulnerability, through intentionality, through truly taking the time and the space to say, here's what I've learned. What have you learned? How do we help one another? How do we share our insights and share some of these principles that have helped us along on our journey? Because without that connection, without those shared moments and those shared ideas, like we become isolated and we become stuck within ourselves and within our own thoughts, right? And we're not able to continue to be better and better and better. And I really appreciate it for that purpose as well.
Thank you very much. Well, we're buddies. How can people have a $5 million check that they give you? How do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, no joke. Well, we are always, we have a huge presence online. So our Kids Food Basket website, kidsfoodbasket.org, Kids Food Basket on Facebook, call Kids Food Basket, talk to Bridget, ask for Bridget if you're interested in discussing anything further that we've talked about today.
Cash or just, you know what? I encourage, we brought my girls there when they were very young, to just make sandwiches.
Yeah.
And just that perspective of kids helping kids really opens up the channel of thinking that's different around how they live, where my kids live, and also awakens them to other challenges that people might be having in their life, and to do it without any judgment, because we're all a whisker away from having some major economic challenges in our lives.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, it's critical. I think kids understand. Kids can understand it. I mean, I remember understanding social injustice and poverty at a very young age. Kids get that there are other kids that don't have the same privileges they do, or the same, like we said, healthy food is a right, not a privilege.
Right.
And kids can understand that, right? And I think bringing them in to be a part of the solution and having a deep understanding is part of how we raise empathetic children. And we raise children who have that same North Star, that they want to make the world a better place, that they are intentional about bringing their best skill sets and what they do best to bring good into the world. And kids can do that, right? At young ages.
It's awesome. Well, we're going to end on that. Thank you so much.
Thank
You're
you.
my buddy.
Thank you.
I'm the biggest cheerleader. I love collaborating with your organization, and I can't wait to do some other projects with you this year when the new building comes online. It's going to be awesome.
Thank you. We're so grateful for everything you've done, Brian. Thank you so much. Thank you for today and this opportunity, and for using your skill set at Kids Food Basket, because we just have some amazing work from you, and we'll look forward to collaborating more in the future.
Well,
it's true,
been
though.
Fun, though. And we all have limited things that we can do. I try to do a certain amount of projects every year that I can do pro bono, and it has to be an amazing organization for me to even try to wrap my head around trying to do it. I don't say that from any kind of egotistical standpoint. It's just a time management thing. And unless you can really, there's never a convenient time to give.
Right.
But so when you can align with an organization like yours, and you guys are so great because you're just like, do what you want to do. Like in terms of the portraits and things, you have certain things you need.
Yeah.
But around that space, you allow me to do whatever. So
we're so grateful. We're so grateful for the opportunity to tell our story, because that's what you do. You tell the story.
All right. We'll go to kidsfoodbasket.org and then get your checks ready, or just volunteer to make some sandwiches for kids. And thank you again, Bridget Clark Whitney.
Thank you, Brian.
Well, I told you it was like a TED Talk. I really did. Bridget Clark Whitney, incredible conversation. Raw, real. It was dense. There was a lot in there. I tried to cut it down, and I just couldn't. There's so many subjects. I don't know what subject is going to connect with who. And this is just one I decided I can't cut anything out. So I hope you enjoyed that. Please visit kidsfoodbasket.org. Consider a donation. If you have a $4 million, extra $4 million laying around, give Bridget Clark Whitney a call. She can help you out with that, and it would make a huge impact in the communities around Grand Rapids and surrounding counties in West Michigan. You know what? I just made a brand new Facebook page for this podcast. So search on Facebook for Full Exposure with Brian Kelly. Please like and follow us. I'm going to try to put tons of cool podcast content up on that. More portraits that you can see from each shoot. And I'm trying to clean up my personal pages a little bit on Facebook so I don't exhaust my real friends and family with all this podcast business. So if you like what we're doing, please like, follow us, subscribe on iTunes and any other podcasting platforms that you look to for content. Have a great week. Man, I'm fired up. Let's level up, as Bridget Clark Whitney says. Level up. Let's do this, people. Have a good week.